Hello, Mr. K here again. We're talking about engine overhaul, and this is our part two, which is inspection. So inspecting engine parts and other things that you do during engine overhaul process. All right, we're going to talk about why and when do we inspect engine parts, methods of inspection, and tips for what I call naked eye inspection, which is without using any fancy tools. All right, why are we inspecting parts? Well, we're going to locate issues before the engine's reassembled. So you don't want to assemble an engine that's got issues. You might be checking to see why the engine wasn't performing correctly. So if you had a loss of horsepower or ran rough or shook, you might be looking for that issue. Is it worth rebuilding, right? If there's a big crack in the side of the block and it's not fixable, it's probably not worth rebuilding. Probably need to get a different block, start with a different engine. And we got to figure out what parts we need to buy. All right. When do we inspect parts? Well, first thing I'm going to tell you is before you clean them, because you're going to miss something like this otherwise. If you can imagine rebuilding this engine or overhauling this engine, and you immediately just take it apart and clean it all off, send it to a parts washer, you're going to miss these coolant trails that were from, perhaps a leaky head gasket or a cracked cylinder head or something like that. You're going to miss all this. That's your clue that something was wrong. Okay, here's another one. Looks like maybe an oil or a coolant wet spot on the bottom of this head. That signifies probably a head gasket that went bad. You're going to miss that, and you're going to lose that clue if you wash these parts off first. There's another one. Something going on right there. Okay, that's your clue. Something else going on. Here's another clue, right? If you would have cleaned all this off and thrown this gasket away and forgotten about it, you wouldn't find this. Check stuff before you clean it. Look for carbon trails, black soot, places where it shouldn't be. Look for coolant, oil, places where it shouldn't be, right? Also going to tell you to look at it again after you clean the parts, because sometimes little hairline cracks like this will not be visible until after you clean all that oil and grease and soot and rust off the surface. So you have to clean all that off, and then you'll find little hairline cracks like this. Okay. So inspect it before and after. So what types of inspections can we do? First, we're going to talk about what I just call naked eye inspections, all right, which is just you are just looking at something with your eyes. You might be using a magnifying glass or a flashlight or a mirror, but you're not using any expensive $1,000 tools. Cheap, simple, no special tools, right? But the problem with these inspections, you can miss defects. Okay, if there's a crack, but it's covered in rust or sludge or grease, you're going to miss it. It's time consuming, right? It takes a while. And you kind of have to know what you're looking for. You can't just pull someone off the street who's never worked on this type of engine before and have him or her find a crack with the naked eye. They probably won't find it. You gotta have to know, okay, on an engine block, I'm gonna look for cracks around the motor mounts. I'm gonna look for cracks between cylinders. I'm gonna look for cracks on a cylinder head between the valves. If you don't know those things, you're probably gonna miss the cracks. The reason I put this picture up here, this shows a variety of color temperatures of lights, okay? You've got a warm, what they call a warm white or yellow light, all the way up to a cool white or a daylight bulb. These are not lumens. These could all be 1,000 lumen lights. This is not light output. This is light temperature. It's just measured on the Kelvin scale. Okay. The reason why I put this up here is because cool light produces more contrast. So you're going to be more likely to find a crack or defect in an engine block or engine part if you're working under this cool white light as opposed to the warm light. So here's a Kelvin scale here on the left. Now, if you're in a room with fluorescent lights, like our classroom, you look up bright white fluorescent lights. Those are probably about maybe a 6,500 Kelvin light. maybe 6,800 or 6,000, but they're probably in this area. Now, if you're in your house and you look up and you've got a nice warm, I call it a warm yellow light, like a campfire type light, you're looking at more of a 2 to 3,000. Okay. Again, very pleasing to the eyes, maybe relaxing, not what you want to find problems with your engine parts. Won't contrast as well. So you want high color temperature lights when you're looking at finding cracks and things and finding imperfections. Okay. So the point here is this garage, which one are you going to find defects better on an engine if you're rebuilding it? This garage or this one? Probably this one with the airplane in it. Okay, let's go back. This is a nice, cool, warm yellow light. It's pleasant to the eyes, but you're not going to find your defects in there. You're going to find them in a lighting like this. Okay, bright white light everywhere. That is what's going to help you find those issues. So a lot of the airplane shops I worked in had lights like the, oops, excuse me, go back, had lighting like this on the ceiling, and they even had lights mounted to the walls. Some of them even had lights they'd roll around on the floor. I mean, they just light the heck out of these airplanes to find defects, what they call smoking rivets, cracks in the aircraft skin, anything like that, bubbling of the paint, because obviously there's lives at stake on aircraft. So they really bring in the lighting to find issues. Okay. So some tips here for naked eye inspection. Make sure you don't blind yourself with the flashlight. Don't shine things head on. It's gonna reflect back at you, right? So shiny metal, and shine from multiple angles to find issues. So I'll have you pause now and watch this video. I know that's a lot to type. I apologize. I realized I didn't put the video title in this presentation, but it is a photographer, crime scene investigator, actually, and she is talking about how oblique lighting can really light up imperfections and things. And it works the same way in an engine block. Okay, this is oblique lighting. If you, we're looking at it now here, this is a fingerprint. It's kind of a putty that you could place your thumb into, and it would leave an impression of your fingerprint. And if you just shine it head on with a flashlight, you're not going to see anything. You're just going to see, looks like Play-Doh. If you hit it with light from the side, you'll start to see friction ridge detail and actually little ridges of your thumbprint. Hit it from another side, you'll see different ridges. Okay, same thing in an engine. Oblique lighting is lighting from different angles and lighting from the side so you can find defects. All right. So now we talked about naked eye inspections. Let's talk about non-destructive testing. This is another way to inspect an engine, engine block, crankshaft, engine parts, more than just what the naked eye can do. All right. Go ahead and watch this video right now, finding cracks in engine parts. Okay, you should have just watched that video. Now, this is called liquid penetrant inspection or liquid penetrant testing. You saw what it does. You spray down an ink, you wipe off the excess, you spray down a developer, and then that ink soaks backwards. Kind of, you soak it into the crack, and then it soaks back out of the crack into the developer powder and lights it up, shows you where the crack is, right? So the downside of this is it's more expensive than the naked eye inspection. It's a little bit time consuming. You got to wipe this, you got to clean this, you got to spray it, you got to wipe it again. Okay. But the cool thing is it works with just about any material. It doesn't have to be anything special. It does kind of require some finesse though. You can overdo it, you can overspray it, you can underspray it. It's not an idiot proof method. It can be kind of a pain in the butt. Here's how it works. There's your crack in your workpiece. You're going to clean the workpiece. Okay. Get the dirt out. You apply the ink. It soaks into the crack. You wipe off the excess ink. You apply the developer. It's like a white powder, kind of like flour. And then that ink soaks backwards back out of the crack and into the developer, and then it lights it up. Pretty neat process. Simple, but neat. Okay. This is a different one. This is probably the most common in your run-of-the-mill engine overhaul shops, like, just Terre Haute, Indianapolis, or something like that. A lot of them are going to use magnetic particle inspection. Okay. what he's going to do in this video is he's got a huge magnet. He's sort of going to turn this whole engine into a big magnet. He's going to run a magnetic field through the engine block. And then if there's a crack in the engine block, which you will see that there will be one right there. If there's a crack, the magnetic field lines will switch directions at that crack. And that will draw this powder then that he sprinkles over the engine over right into that crack, and it lights it up so you can find it. So go ahead and watch this video. All right, you should have just watched that video. So let's talk about magnetic particle inspection. It's higher cost. That magnet that he used might be $2,000. And after he uses the magnet and finishes this test, guess what? He just turned that whole engine block into a huge magnet. That means it's going to collect debris while it's running later on. Means you need to demagnetize that entire engine block now. So you need to buy a demagnetizer that's big enough to fit the whole engine block inside of it. Then you might be looking at another $5,000. So it's kind of high cost, but it's pretty fast and easy to set up. You just stick a magnet on it and you start sprinkling that dust. Okay. Only works with ferrous metals. You can't do this on aluminum. It's got to be iron, steel, a cast iron is iron, tool steel, hardened steel, whatever it may be, but it's not going to work on aluminum. It's not going to work on brass, copper, that type of thing. It's got to be an iron or ferrous metal. And of course, we talked about that. Here's how it works. Okay, you get a little crack. That's the break in the magnetic field, causes a reversal of poles, and then makes a little magnet right here. And that's where those magnetic particles collect. Okay, this is getting pretty high end, pretty expensive, eddy current testing. Probably not something you're going to find unless you go to like an aircraft shop or a high-end race shop. Okay, eddy current inspection is pretty neat. It is, I'm going to go ahead and go through this before I tell you to watch the video. It's extremely high cost. I mean, you might spend 10 to 30 grand on a machine like this. Pretty kind of fast setup. I suppose maybe it's not so fast if you don't know what you're doing. But the cool thing is there's no mess, there's no liquid, there's no spray, there's no dust, nothing. It's a very clean method. Works with aluminum and ferrous metals. Technically, you are supposed to demagnetize the stuff after you're done. Now, the cool thing about this is it's the most precise method. It actually measures how deep a crack is down to the thousandth of an inch. So if you look at these, this is actually a piece of aluminum he's going to use in the video. It's got 3 different cracks in it, and they're all different depths. This little tool will actually show that on the screen. So it doesn't just find the cracks, it actually tells you how deep they are too, which is pretty neat. So go ahead and watch this video. Okay, you should have just watched that video. Hopefully that kind of showed you how valuable eddy current testing can be. It's pretty neat. It is something I did in college. It's not something you guys are going to get at your average mechanic school. You're going to have to take extra classes or go to be a machinist to get stuff like this. Typically, most mechanics do not deal with mag particle inspection, liquid penetrant, or eddy current testing. It's kind of a step up from that. So, but super cool stuff. A lot of good jobs in that. Okay, at this point, make sure you complete your assignment on engine inspections part 2, and have a good day.